Right, good morning, welcome to BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT. I'm here with Roman Chernyshev, VP of Healthcare and Life Sciences at DataArt EU, and creator of the KidPro app. Hi Roman, can you provide a little bit of background and a little bit of information about your career to date?
Yeah, sure. I studied in St. Petersburg, St. Petersburg State Technical University, and I studied robotics. But even before that, I got interested in computers and IT, and I got really passionate about technology at that time. So I spent most of my time, programming and playing with all kinds of software and toys, and that's how I got into IT. That's how I started. And then, right after the university, there was a chain of low-paid jobs in technology companies. Then at some point I decided to start my own software business, which lasted for about 2 years, and then that was sort of my decision to move to full-time employment and build my career in sort of enterprise world. In 2004 I joined DataArt as a software developer. By that time I already had some experience in project management, in leading teams, and within a year I switched to more of a project management role, and from that time I was kind of building my career inside the company, currently being head of healthcare and life sciences practice in DataArt.
Right, can you tell me a little bit more about what DataArt do?
We're a technology consulting company providing design and development services to technology companies in different areas. My responsibility is healthcare and life sciences, but we also work with financial companies. We also work in online travel, machine-to-machine, and some other areas as well.
What was the thinking behind the creation of the KidPro app?
So we had a conversation with a clinical research organization that was struggling with a common problem, basically. There is a class of software systems called electronically patient-recorded outcomes that are aimed at recording, patient journey through a clinical trial, basically during drug development. It's the last stage of drug development process. And the problem that they are facing is that it works, all those electronic systems, they work well with adults because adults are disciplined, they are focused, they can track their behavior, but it doesn't work very well with kids because they are quite the opposite. They're unfocused and they're not disciplined, and you have to engage them, you have to get them interested. And so the idea was to provide an alternative interface for kids to ePro systems that would be engaging, that would keep kids motivated and interested in what they do. And so this was the idea behind ePro. We sit down and we try to think, what can we do to solve this problem? And the result is this application, which is basically alternative interface that engages kids, provides them with all kinds of things that make them interested in the process through a game, and rewards them with stars and things. Ultimately, we can develop the system even further and make it a sort of social network for kids undergoing clinical trials, so that they could share their experiences, they could share items they gain in the application, and make it the big game, an interesting game. I tested this application on my son, who's 8 at the moment, and it worked very well. He was really interested in some point in playing with the character and buying stuff, exchanging his rewards for pieces of cloth that application offers. So yeah, that's basically the idea behind it. It's an attempt to solve a real problem through sort of gameplay.
Did you think at any point of aiming it more for the parents or carers rather than the child itself, or was it always the plan to make it usable for?
Yeah, the plan is to make it usable so that by kids, so that they could report their experience without intervention from carers, and carers are still there. They are overseeing that process. But the main point was to get kids themselves engaged into this process.
I understand that there's no plans to push the app itself out into the marketplace. Can you explain the thinking behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea and the main driver for us to develop this application was to demonstrate what technology can do to solve real-world problems. In this case, the idea came, as I said, from a CRO organization that we had conversation with, and they kind of described us what problem they are facing, and we tried to use our creativity and our experience in technology just to show them what technology can be capable of and how it can solve the problem. So this is mostly a demonstrator. It's not an application that we're going to push on the market. We're not going to sell it. It's a demonstrator, and hopefully people will get interested in this application, and maybe we can develop this idea further in partnership with someone who's interested in it.
So it's very much a sort of starting point
to
allow for future development if people do buy into the idea and the concept.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. When sort of creating the app itself, what issues did you find around sort of security or data vulnerabilities that you had to overcome?
Not much really.
Right.
We've been working in healthcare space, in the healthcare technology space for probably more than 10 years already. So we're quite familiar with security regulations, HIPAAs, and safe harbors of this world. So developing this application, again, we were focusing on solving the problem, because we never intended to have this particular application, published and used in real-world scenarios. We always, developing applications, we always remember about all kinds of regulations, and it's really part of our development process. So everything we do is kind of addressing issues around security and privacy. We just have to do that because otherwise we wouldn't be, a good partner for companies working in this space.
That's very true. Yeah. And sort of away from to talk about the app itself, what can you see technology-wise? What kind of developments can you see in the future of IT, specifically related to healthcare? Is there anything that you can sort of see on the horizon, or anything that would be good if a certain product or solution was developed?
Talking specifically about healthcare, I think the IT overall is the biggest trend is that it becomes more and more personal and less private.
Right.
And in healthcare specifically, I think we'll see a lot more applications for telemedicine in the nearest future. Right now, I think the only reason we don't see telemedicine everywhere is that legal framework is just not mature enough to support that. But I think telemedicine will be kind of the main driver of growth and main application of technology in the nearest future in healthcare. And then, apart from that, I think combination of gaming and healthcare is another trend that can be very visible. using
KidPro app proves, isn't it?
But it also works for adults. People just like playing games.
Yeah.
And I think healthcare technology will be leveraging that fact a lot, promoting healthy behaviors through, gaming and gamification of applications. I think those are probably the main two trends that I can see now.
Okay. And looking back again to the start of your career, were there any particular role models, or or if not role models, was there sort of a reason that you wanted to get into the industry in the first place?
I just got very hooked with this whole programming thing. It's really amazing when you can create worlds with your own hands, and you can change fundamental laws in those worlds. That's probably how I started, and I always liked to do things before. Getting interested in IT, I was very much into scale models, which require a lot of attention and to details and everything. So that's probably it was sort of destined for me to get into programming, because that's all these qualities are very much required there.
Kind of analytical mind and the attention to detail and the focus.
Things of that nature. But I don't remember any role models at that time. IT was still very young. It was beginning of 90s, and the only probably prominent person at that time in IT was Bill Gates. I mean, not probably the only prominent, but the only public person who you could see in media and everywhere. So there was no role model. There was more like interest in the subject. I was very much interested in all the developments there, and just followed the trend. I think that's where it got me so far.
And can you give away anything for our audience about what you might be working on next?
We have a lot of R&D projects going on all the time for two different reasons. First, we want to be visible, as every business. We want to show the world what we are capable of. But another big reason is that we need to develop our own talent internally, and this is probably the best way to do that, just to let people's creativity out, use that creativity to create prototypes like this and applications. The next application that we're working on right now is sort of analytical tool for pharma marketing.
Right.
We're at the very early stage of planning and sketching the application, but when it's done, it will probably be able of collecting data about promotion of certain medicine or drug or certain product on the market, using all available channels, including social networks and media and everything, and then compare that data from the real world with events that happen during product's life cycle. So it's not specific to pharma, to be honest. It can be used in any other industry, but overlaying reaction over specific events. You can see how market reacts to your proposal, to how market reacts to the product from different angles. And we think it might be a very interesting idea to have it on the one screen, like, okay, here we did launch, and here we published an article, and here is how our sales went up here, and here is the response that we got here. And if we complement that with sentiment analysis, so not just counting number of mentions, but also quality of those mentions, whether it was a positive mentioning or was it in a negative context. It can provide even more value to marketing people in the pharma industry or in any other industry for that matter.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds like it might have a wide range of uses.
Yeah, it definitely can have a wide range of uses, and by doing that, we're actually employing a wide range of technologies, from natural language processing to big data analysis and all those buzzwords. They will be there.
Mixed bag of buzzwords.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the end of my questions. So thank you very much for your time today, Roman.
Thank you.